in the last 3 years, I've tried to, use State Department briefings, stuff at the press club. I've tried to use legal recourse. I spent the fall of 2023 pushing for a country to invoke the Genocide Convention,
Mhm.
which South Africa did. And now I feel like, we got to take the electoral arena to the next level. Not that it's not rigged. All of these arenas are completely rigged. But we just have to use each of them as intelligently as possible to the maximum capacity. That's how I'm entering into taking on into the fourth district here in Maryland, just outside of DC, against Glenn Ivey. He basically, he's people don't know about him because he's like a sort of subdued guy personality wise, but he's like fourth or fifth in how much money he's gotten from APAC and related super PACs. It's really sort of off the charts. Um, and so and he's in a district where the Republican can't possibly win. So there's none of this lesser evilism stuff that rots people's brains. So I think it's a unique opportunity to do what I can in the district, to energize the district, hopefully, and hopefully it'll cast a shadow into DC.
I
Gonna
think
say,
it's very fascinating that you were banned from the press club.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
let that sink in.
Right.
As somebody who went to journalism school and started out doing that, it's the irony is not lost on me that a
Yeah.
journalist is banned from the press club. Just
Yeah, you'd think, it's an old journalistic cliche that, man bites, dog stories are supposed to be, front page news. I'm like, well, this monument to the First Amendment that calls itself, this, great voice for press freedom and so on is literally shutting me up for having spoken up at an anti-corruption event where they weren't going to take any questions.
of course not. And this is something I want to ask you because I actually think you might be able to answer me better than Ryan Grimm would, let's say hypothetically. And this is something that I don't get. When we know that the people that are standing at the podium are lying to our faces, what's the point of showing up at those? It's like, that they're not telling you the truth.
Right.
You're not getting accurate information. You know what I mean? Like, what?
I mean,
Why?
my attitude, and I went to a lot of State Department briefings before and, after Israel's, accelerated massive onslaught in Gaza. Um, and my attitude was my job was to make their lies obvious,
Fair.
so that more and more people could see it and pin down how insidious it was. Like the Biden, I asked several, the question that I asked the most about during the Biden tenure was, do you recognize the Geneva Conventions as applying to the Palestinians? Because it was clear if you parsed out what their positions were that they didn't, that they literally do not accept that the Geneva Conventions apply to the Palestinians. But they would never come out and say that because it's such an insidious thing to say. So I kept chipping away, asking questions to help expose that that was their actual legal philosophy, if you want to call it that. And they would go on and on about the hostages. So I asked them once about the Hannibal Directive. You know what their response was? We have no knowledge of any such directive.
Uh-huh. Well, that's
Because they're
funny because the rest of us do.
right.
So I think that's just funny that we know and the State Department doesn't know, right?
Yeah, but their fiction is that they're out to save U.S. lives, but there were U.S. citizens held in Gaza. So, I was like, you're supposed to save US lives. So aren't you worried about Israel executing US citizens with the Hannibal Directive? And they had no answer to that. So they had to pretend that they didn't know about it. Now that you would have thought that would have, that the system would have gone into some kind of a collapse because they're supposed to care so much about the hostages. So I was just out to show us, and it's I think it's important that I did that, because now you have a lot of Biden administration people trying to rewrite history and pretend that they were really, taken in by Netanyahu
Right.
or whatever. And I'm like, no, you engaged in a massive systematic campaign of propaganda and genocide. Enabling is too weak a word. Coupling with genocide.
Well,
And
that's the whole rewriting of history right now that Hunter Biden's crusade has basically been about. Why they're trying to
correct,
rehabilitate him, because
correct.
because it is what it is. But Joe Biden is probably going to be deceased within, I would think, the next year. His cancer is metastasized and he's an old man. So it is what it is. And that's why he's going around again, he wants to preserve the Biden legacy, but they've all got blood on their hands and they will never wash it off. This is
Yeah.
multi-generational. This is centuries going forward that people will talk about this and how everyone just stood idly by. But in my opinion, Sam, and we'd obviously love to hear your take on it, and we're going to play your clip in a second. But in my opinion, the reason why Israel and Israelis in general have been able to skate as long as they have is because, like Larry Ellison, they're all connected at the very top of the economic ladder within this broken economic and political system. It's not a question of whether people want to deal with them. It's a question of who actually makes the rules. And right now, a substantial portion of them are still in positions of power, like Jared Kushner. And as long as that is the case, we are dealing with that reality. We're trying to revolutionize that reality. But for the time being, that is the reason why I think we've been stuck in this predicament. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that, there has been a consistent pattern of massive crimes, and then the system has a soft landing. And none of the culprits are held to account. That happened with the Iraq invasion, for example. And the Obama administration provided a soft landing for the establishment after that. And it happened before that in several iterations. And I think going forward, we have to prevent it from that. We have to dislodge as close to the root as we possibly can the culprits of this in both political parties that actually work together a great deal of the time. So obviously right now Kushner is central to what he's doing, and we're seeing him meeting with Jeffries so that they can collude while pretending to be in this big fight between the Republicans and Democrats that people get sucked into, whereas they're actually trying to ensure behind the scenes effective collusion on Israel's genocide, on economic policies, on big tech, on attacks on civil liberties, on a whole series of issues. So I definitely see the need to expose and dislodge the culprits as much as possible.
So I don't know are you running as a Democrat?
No, I'm running as a Green. The Greens in
Good.
Maryland got got organized quite well and got on the
Good.
ballot here in Maryland. They're the only party other than Democrats and Republicans on the ballot. And I've known other people who've tried to run as an independent and so on, and they spend all their time trying to get on the ballot. This was literally handed to me on a silver platter, thanks to a lot of dedicated activists. Yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
Because that is the big thing people don't realize is it's not made easy if you don't have party infrastructure. It's really difficult. And it's not that it's impossible, but it is made to be as difficult as possible.
Well, let's play the clip. This will give everybody a pretty good idea of how Sam got here to this point. And obviously your work precedes you, but this is definitely a sort of an up-to-date moment here that's very critical.
My name is Sam Husseini. Last year, I confronted Antony Blinken. Last month, I confronted Democratic Party leader Chuck Schumer. Now, I'm launching a run for Congress. The genocide-enabling Republican and Democratic Party establishments must be confronted at every turn and on every front. They represent the interests of the Epstein class, while relentlessly conning working people. Not only are they sending our tax dollars to Imperial Israel to destroy schools, hospitals, and housing in Gaza, money which should be going to building up schools, hospitals, and housing here at home, but their backing Imperial Israel has also made our nation more of an empire and even less of a democracy, with big tech surveillance, militarization of police, and attacks on free speech and the right to protest. We need to renew Main Street. We can no longer abide Wall Street and war machine Democrats. They are often enabling rather than hindering Trump, including with this unconstitutional attack on Iran, just the latest of these imperial Zionist wars. It has already cost us $750 per household in increased fuel and other costs in just 3 months. And Trump's issued nuclear threats while refusing to acknowledge Israel's nukes. My Democratic Party opponent, Glenn Ivey, got into Congress with millions in pro-Israel money, like AIPAC.
Oh. Okay. See, and now from seeing the photo, now it makes sense why they don't go after him. Now it makes sense to me. Oh my God. All right. Fine. Just another
And even
member.
opposed Obama's Iran deal. We must take on the data centers, insurance companies, and abolish ICE. By working for peace, we will, as Gil Scott-Heron put it, bring ourselves closer to each other, closer to building a structure that is unique within ourselves, because we have finally come to peace within ourselves, including as a nation. I'm running outside of the 2 major parties that serve their billionaire donors. Like most of my fellow citizens, I am ready for transformational political change. By running with an independent party that rejects corporate money and super PACs, the Green Party, I am spitting out the whole corrupt political system. Please volunteer, and if you can, contribute. Let's seize this historic moment to make our country a real democracy for all.
Yeah, guys, if you're in the vicinity of that district, in the DC, Maryland vicinity, be boots on the ground, because that's really what's needed. More than money, it's you need people knocking doors. Somebody asked in the comments, and I kind of feel like I could answer, but Sam, you wouldn't support AIPAC Shakur for speaker, would you?
Obviously not. I mean, I think
Somebody asked that, and I'm
we
thinking,
gotta
no.
we gotta up our expectations. It's not just that I wouldn't support him; it's that I would relentlessly expose him at every turn.
Exactly.
You know, it's not just simply a statement or, you know, a single vote. It's, you know, what, you know, are you really going to put your shoulder to the wheel? And I've tried to, make journalism mean something more than it has typically meant, and I'm going to try to do that with being a candidate now. And if I get into Congress, I'll do that with being a congressman.
I'm amazed that you've maintained access this time with the mouth like you've got. It's amazing. I'm so impressed. I mean, although I'm amazed that Max ever gets invited back anywhere. I don't know why they invite Max anywhere, but like the same thing. It's, it's impressive. It's sort of, it's hard to toe that line. You got to maintain within certain boundaries or you're never going to be able to get back in places. But then you have
I mean, I did just get banned from the press club. So, and it's not like I've cursed anybody out,
No.
I haven't used profanity. I haven't, used the press club in I wrote this up on my Substack. They claim that I'm a threat to safety and security. Look at look at the videotape. I didn't do anything. I didn't raise my hand to anyone. It's absurd. It's absurd.
That's okay. Debbie Wasserman Schultz accused Medea Benjamin of assault. So, you're just as threatening. I mean, if not more a little bit than Medea. I mean,
I think I'm less threatening than Medea in some ways. But I mean, like when I got dragged out, they carried me out of Blinken's thing. They took me in the hallway and they shoved me around. I got a concussion. I had headaches for 8 months after that. And there were no cameras. No one thought to go out into the hallway and see what was going on. And the State Department didn't respond when I asked them if they had any any surveillance cameras in the hallways. So they grabbed me by the shoulders and shoved me around. I didn't know what the hell they were doing. I think they were probably intentionally inflicting a concussion on me, which they did.
Do you not have any, is there not any recourse for this?
I've reached out to various lawyers. It is incredibly difficult to sue the federal government over something like this. I'm going to continue trying. But I was kind of surprised that lawyers didn't, leap out of the woodwork saying, let's do something on this.
Because they'll say they're acting they're going to say security was acting within their capacity and their job. And that, yeah, that's what'll happen.
But
so then they
in
would have
particular, I mean,
immunity.
if it was a private entity, then I would have been able
Yeah.
to sue them like mad.
course.
It is the federal government has certain parameters, as I understand it, that gives them far more leeway, which seems backwards to me. But I'm a layperson in this.
Yeah. Well, look, Brian McGinnis, I know there was litigation. There was that they filed when they broke his arm, that there was a suit filed. So
I should drop him a line. I haven't done that.
you
That's a
should
great
drop him
idea.
a line. And yeah, because when he was on with us, I asked him, I said, look, I don't need names, I don't need details, but just I want to know if you have a good lawyer. And he was very clear that he did have a good lawyer. So he made it clear that there was something going on, whatever that is. But yeah. You should find out.
Sam, what in your opinion is the current status of, I mean, Jen thinks we're in the sixth circle of collapsing empire, or the sixth?
No, the sixth phase. We're in the
phase?
sixth phase of 7
Yeah.
phases of the collapse of empire. Yes.
I mean, I don't like to invoke Jigsaw's name, but when I see Laura Loomer getting not just press credentials, but being flown, I mean, we all know that she's she's an agent of Israel. We know that, but it is the desecration of whatever sanctities we held as a nation. In my opinion, the Constitution is one of the only things we ever really had. And even then, it just seems now that freedom of the press, free speech, I just don't think we're coming back from this. So, we were talking earlier about, the fact that the Democratic establishment is clearly setting up Ossoff to be the guy. And if that's the case, does anyone think that he's going to change anything? All these precedents that have been set with Trump, they're not going to change because the empire is falling apart. How do you see it at this stage? Do you believe that we are heading for a full-on revolution at some point?
I see the empire as being more resilient than people sometimes give it credit for, unfortunately. It has so many tools at its disposal. I mean, I was one of the few people on the left who examined COVID origins and, biowarfare and related things. They have a lot of tools in their toolkit. And right now, our communication system is dominated by a few big tech firms, and it's very hard for people to coalesce and organize outside of that. I think I'm going to try to overcome that with my campaign. I'm going to try to be creating PDFs to, you were saying, boots on the ground, to have flyers that people can pass out and really reclaim the public square. So I after the Iraq war, a lot of people said that, okay, it's all falling apart, and it reconstituted itself. And now we see it going from aggression to aggression. Venezuela, Israel killed Nasrallah. Israel killed all of Hamas leadership. They're going out. It's just a juggernaut, and I think we're going to have to be a lot more organized. We can't treat this as a spectacle. We have to figure out the strategies for the empire's collapse and to try to do it in as peaceful a way as possible, because it's possible that elements of the empire will be like, okay, if we're going to collapse, we might as well, take a huge part of humanity with us.
Yes.
So this is a very grave task that I think we have to put our shoulder to. And you also talk about the U.S. Constitution. I mean, when I think about the possibility of me in Congress, I mean, I've called for impeachment of both Biden and Trump for waging illegal war, right? Biden illegally bombed Yemen, and lots of members of Congress, or at least some members of Congress, said it was unconstitutional, but nobody moved to impeach him for it. What the hell is that?
Because he's not the president. You know, it's like, right.
Well,
We said forever that it's President Blinken because it sure shit wasn't Kamala. And at the end of the day, Tony
I can,
is that guy. And that's
yeah,
why Kushner is that
I,
guy too.
I think that there's a very strong case to be made that Blinken was his handler, or as you put it, directly the president, and quite possibly Kushner now. I mean, I did a piece on the family structure. I mean, Blinken's family with Samuel Pizarro, and
Maxwell.
Maxwell tied in with Epstein, obviously, and so on and so forth. It could have been, directly tied in with Epstein, or it could have been like a rival structure. And I'm shocked at how little play that got. Obviously, you know about it, but I think a hell of a lot of people don't. And it's remarkable given that he was Secretary of State and so brazen, and that he was, Blinken's handler, Biden's handler for so long. I mean, he was his staffer when Biden was a senator. They go back like more than 20 years. And of course, we know that Biden had a proclivity for touching underage females inappropriately. So that raises a whole other series of questions that have not been meaningfully raised to my knowledge. But my point was, as a member of Congress, one of the main powers that you have is that you can put forward an article of impeachment, and Al Green did try to do that a year ago against Trump for his first bombing of Iran, and he didn't do it as strongly as I would have liked, but he did it, and he's out. He lost his seat. So it seems like there's clearly a pattern of targeting anybody and everybody who actually tries to do something. But I think I would be in a unique position in that I would do something that no member of Congress has ever done, to my knowledge, which is to say, I'm going to put forward articles of impeachment against a president of either party who engages in unconstitutional war and war crimes.